Mr. Speaker, I stand to support the motion by the majority leader. Mr. Speaker, I wanted to state maybe just 2 points that my colleagues have maybe forgotten. But as I stand, Mr. Speaker, I want to associate myself with all those colleagues, honorable members who have spoken before me in support of this motion. Mr. Speaker, a lot of times we forget that cabinet secretaries are state officers. And Mr. Speaker, state officers are covered under Chapter 6 of the Constitution on integrity. Mr. Speaker, the problem with most of us is that when we speak about Chapter 6, we say it is the integrity chapter and we have never read it. But I want to encourage our colleagues here who are in doubt as to the utility of this particular motion, that it is an expression of Chapter 6 at its best on integrity and leadership. Article 73 of the Constitution, Mr. Speaker, requires that every member who is a state officer, every state officer, every person who has taken an oath, such as a cabinet secretary, are supposed to exercise the responsibility they have been given as a service to the people and not to rule over the people. Mr. Speaker, when those cabinet secretaries come here, it will be a good reminder to them that they are not supposed to rule over the people, Mr. Speaker. They are supposed to serve the people, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, we have had cabinet secretaries who forgot that even the appointing authorities, the deputy president, is senior to them. They have carried themselves, Mr. Speaker, in the immediate past administration in a manner that suggested that they are more superior than not only the ordinary citizens, the ordinary members of parliament, but even senior members of the executive, Mr. Speaker. These are the people, Mr. Speaker, that you cannot handle even in those committees, because in the committees, Mr. Speaker, they write letters, they come when they want, they do what they like, they have ignored summons. And Mr. Speaker, nothing has happened to them. It will not be the same here, Mr. Speaker, when we meet with them face to face in the plenary, in the glare of the eyes of Kenyan people. Mr. Speaker, it will remind the cabinet secretaries that they took an oath to serve the people of this country. The cabinet secretaries of the past administrations will be watching and seeing what a cabinet secretary is supposed to do. Mr. Speaker, we will have cabinet secretaries who know the facts of their ministries, not those people who just depend on support staff for them to answer even small questions. We will have people who study the mandate of their ministries, who are able to answer questions, who are able to answer follow-up questions because they have studied their mandate and they are familiar with the outputs and the requirements of their departments, which they have been appointed to head. Mr. Speaker, another reason why we should support this motion is that it is actuating the constitutional requirement under Article 35 that access to information held by the state must be granted to every citizen. And Mr. Speaker, Access to Information Act is there, but this will be the real access to information. Because when those state officers come here, Mr. Speaker, they will not plead that, they are being, this is secret information or what. All the information, all the questions that will be put before them, Mr. Speaker, they will be required to give proper and satisfactory answers. Mr. Speaker, this will be a place where Kenyans will be watching to see the ministers who are the cabinet secretary who deserve to hold those offices. This will be the area where even the appointing authority, His Excellency the President, he will be seeing who is a cabinet secretary who is ready to work as a servant to the people, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, this will be the place where all Kenyans, including the appointing authority, including fellow cabinet secretaries, will be watching to see who is sleeping on the job or who is always traveling abroad, never being able to know what is happening in his office, who is always in meetings that are otherwise other than, Mr. Speaker, the authority they have been given to serve. Mr. Speaker, thirdly, we have had cabinet secretaries, Mr. Speaker, who have been extremely busy doing personal businesses, Mr. Speaker, in the past. They have forgotten that the Constitution, Mr. Speaker, specifically forbids, and I want, if I can find that one quickly. Article 77, Mr. Speaker, and I want to read. A full-time state officer shall not participate in any other gainful employment. Mr. Speaker, what we have had in the past is that cabinet secretaries have not spent time mastering the things that have given them that position, mastering the facts about their ministries. Mr. Speaker, cabinet secretaries have been totally dependent on the PSs. You go to their offices and all you hear is, have you asked the PS about this? Have you asked the PS, does the PS know about this? Why? Because they are directors of personal businesses. They are owners and partners of personal businesses. They have a lot of time, Mr. Speaker, spent doing their own things other than the thing that has given them that position. Mr. Speaker, I remember personally serving as an assistant minister in the office of the President. And there used to be a cabinet secretary, Mr. Speaker, who would be, Madam Speaker, who would be saying, there is this and this meeting, I'll be going to State House, so you chair those meetings, and I will come at around 5 to the office. Mr. Speaker, and that particular cabinet secretary, and he was later on fired, he would not be in the State House, Mr. Speaker. He would go to attend to his own meetings, to his own businesses. Of course, he became a very wealthy man at the end of the term. And Mr. Speaker, these are the people we want to just make sure they are not in public service. If people like those were being grilled as it should be, because in those days, Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, we used to cover for them. It was us assistant ministers who used to come and take the fire. But in this particular case, we have said cabinet secretaries are the ones who must come in person, Mr. Speaker. And so I want to urge all of us to take this opportunity and to attend, and Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, to be a bipartisan thing. There is no way that we shall support people here, even if we are in Kenya Kwanza and we are in UDA. People who come here and they show incompetence and preparedness, or they are asleep at their job, we shall crucify them in the floor of this Senate. Mr. Speaker, we are not going to joke with people who have been given responsibilities, and some of them, we competed with them and they lost and they went to sit in the cabinet. Mr. Speaker, we shall not give them a time here to relax. They must prepare, they must know the duties, Mr. Speaker, that are involved in those jobs that they have been given. So, Madam Speaker, what is not in order?
Is the Honorable Senator Mungatana in order? Is the Honorable Senator Mungatana in order to make reference to crucifixion of cabinet secretaries who will come and appear before this House? The language used to crucify is not in order.
Senator Danson Mungatana, would you reconsider the use of language and words and their meaning, their ordinary meaning in English parlance?
Yes, Madam Speaker. In the good old school at Alliance High School, we used to have something called similes. And so maybe some of us never benefited So, Mr. Speaker, I will excuse my senior colleague, my colleague.
Wakili, it appears you did not attend Alliance High
No,
School.
he didn't, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, let me just say, and I want not that we lose this point, Madam Speaker. We want serious people, really serious people to come into this house. Madam Speaker, I have had the fortune of interacting with the head of state, Madam Speaker. This is a very serious man. He knows his facts. When you question him about issues, in fact, even concerning your own county, he would be talking about facts and issues. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, I pray that the people who will be coming before us will be prepared, because we are not going to joke around in these sessions. We want serious people, and I hope wherever they are listening, that we want them to be responsible for everything they are doing in the ministry. They will be responsible for the policy direction of the ministries and achieving the goals so that this country can go ahead, Madam Speaker. With those many remarks, Madam Speaker, I pray that we support this motion. And Madam Speaker, even Eddie, Senator Eddie, and he has gone out. Oh, he's still here. No, don't oppose. You cannot be the only person in Jerusalem who has not heard that everyone is supporting this motion. Madam Speaker, I beg that we support. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have finished speaking, Madam Speaker.
Please finish speaking. Honorable